Hey, everybody, welcome back in another episode of Believe in Vikings with your host, Mike Wobschall, as always. And joining me on a Big Mac Tuesday instead of a Big Mac Monday, it's Bryant McKinnie. BMac and I are going to break down the Minnesota Vikings victory over the Houston Texans, and we'll peek ahead to the Vikings' upcoming opponent, which, as you all know, is the Green Bay Packers. That will be on today's Believe in Vikings. It's Tuesday, September 24th. Looking forward to what's ahead for the Vikings this week. Before we get to all of that, though, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. When the game is over, head on over to the online casino. Get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of their over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Bet online. The game starts here. And we bring in Bryant McKinnie right now, one day after his birthday. Happy birthday, Bryant. How'd it go, man?
Thank you very much. We're pretty good. Celebrated birthday on Sunday night. Relaxed pretty much yesterday on my birthday, so I'm feeling good.
Mm-hmm. So you had a birthday on, let's see, the birthday was actually Monday. So you did celebrating over the weekend, right? That's probably what you did.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah, okay, good. And then you got some recovery days after that. So, all right, awesome. The Vikings gave you a birthday present.
They did.
They destroyed the Houston Texans for you. So you woke up just the same way you woke up happy it was your birthday. Vikings fans woke up happy coming off of a victory. It's 2 in a row, Bryant, it's 3 wins in a row for the Vikings, but it's 2 wins in a row where they really took a team everyone thought was good to the woodshed and dominated them. Mm-hmm. At some point, it's like, yeah, the teams we're playing are really good, but we're really good too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and I think people have to start really realizing that. I think a lot of people was like, "Oh, well, here we go," and it's like, okay, like last week, like, oh, well, we were able to get that win against the 49ers, and now we're able to stack another win against another great team. So at a certain point, you have to realize, like, okay, maybe the team is better than we thought or predicted. All these different preseason polls come out and hit like the Vikings at the bottom, in the conference and things like that. But really, the Vikings kind of proving otherwise, or why they're not at the bottom or deserve to be at the bottom with the best record in the conference. So, I mean, it's pretty exciting. I feel like Sam has definitely stepped up, and I feel like he's just got a chance to kind of get a fresh start. So whatever he's done in his past is the past, and now he's creating his new future.
Yeah. Interesting that you bring up the sort of, the preseason prognostications and sort of the expectations. Definitely low this year, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we can find people who were high on the Vikings. We can find people who were low, but I think the consensus was this is a building year or whatever. Like next year's their year. It's not this year, and then they come out and they're 3-0. What's the mindset of the athlete, though, BMac, where, you're in the foxhole, right? I mean, you've been going to OTAs. You've been going to mini camps, training camp. You're hearing the noise. You believe in what's being built. You're bought in. And now other people are starting to jump on and believe. And then some people dig in their heels and still don't believe no matter what you do. What's the athlete's mindset, though? Because that's a lot of noise going on the outside. What are you hearing?
But the athletes really know how good their team is by being at practice every day. They know who they're going against, so they know, like, oh, no, we're pretty good. You know what I mean? Everybody else might not know it yet, but they have an idea of if they're playing at a high level, if they're playing well. And then when they go back and watch film, they're able to make adjustments and correct mistakes. So they kind of know where they are before we do. They're just now just showing us that we're a pretty good team.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you ever pay attention to Stephen A. Smith. Or if you know him. Do you have a relationship?
I do. I hear some of his things at times.
Yeah. So I think he's a pretty sharp guy. I mean, he like pays attention to all the sports, not just the NFL.
Right.
And he can get really opinionated. He can dig his heels in on an opinion. And he's been that way with the Vikings and Cousins, but to the negative. He's and one of his quotes was, the Minnesota Vikings have been known to have some talent and somehow, some way not get it done. And then Darnold had 2 really good games, and Stephen A. Smith found a stat where in clean pockets, Darnold looks really good. When he's pressured, his numbers go down. And Stephen A. had some stats to back that up. He said in a clean pocket, 65% of Darnold's dropbacks are in clean pockets. He's an 83% passer with 3 touchdowns and only 1 pick. When he's under pressure, which is 35% of the time, his completion percentage goes down from 83 to 43, and he's got only 1 touchdown. And he's like, and he said, that sounds like the Sam Darnold I recall. That seems like the Sam Darnold that I've watched over his career thus far. Now, I point this out to you not to pick on Stephen A. because I respect what he does. And he's got to get on TV and the internet every day, get loud and have, yeah. And so you're going to be wrong. I mean, you just are, right? And, we've both probably been on that side of it where it's like you're paired with another guy and it's like, okay, you're going to take this opinion, you're going to take that opinion, and go at it, right? So I'm not trying to be critical of Stephen A., but I'm trying to come at it from your perspective as someone who's been in the locker room and you hear that stuff, because I mean, you walk in like the Winter Park cafeteria, there's TVs in there. And let's say there's Stephen A. Smith or whoever being like, Bryant McKinnie is washed. He gave up 3 sacks last week. Does that go in one ear and out the other for an athlete?
No, I mean,
some people take that to heart?
Some people use it differently. Some people will agree with Stephen A. Smith and go out there and continue to play at that level, or some people will use it as motivation and find ways to win and correct the things that they hear. So it sounds like Sam is like using it as motivation and has been out here and playing at a pretty high level.
Yeah, he is. And I found another stat too. I saw it and then I looked at it and confirmed it. When blitzed, Sam Darnold's passer rating is perfect. I think he's 10 of 12 for like 140 some yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. So I think you're right that Sam Darnold has done something has happened. Whether it's the situation he's in, the coaching he's getting, something has happened for him in Minnesota that a light has turned on.
Right.
And you know what it's probably like. You were in some good situations with the Hurricanes, with the Vikings for the first part of your career, and then you went to the Ravens. Like, the situation you're in matters. There are things outside of your control that come into play and determine how you might perform. And I think Sam's in a spot where a lot of those factors are good.
It does. Coaching matters. Like, he may have a coach that he can relate to a little bit more, here, and is a better teacher. I remember a period of time was a lot of guys coming out of University of Miami, but they were blossoming. After me, they were blossoming when they got to the league, and I feel like it was more of the teaching, or the coach was able to get more out of them. So maybe whoever's coaching him now is able to get more out of him. He has more trust in them, or there's something, but. And then also with time, as he's getting, more mature in the league and being around and seeing things more, things, start to happen faster, and he's going to get better.
Yeah. Yep. And I think I don't know Sam Darnold. I've never met him, but I mean, I think you got to be happy for a guy like that, or look at a guy like Baker Mayfield, right? Guys who are really high picks, it didn't work out for whatever the reason. They move on, they face adversity, and then they're able to overcome that and get back to, everyone's good graces. I think you got to feel happy for a guy like that, don't you?
I definitely do. Baker Mayfield is a good example. You didn't hear much from him at the beginning, and now he's like making a turnaround and making some good plays.
Yeah. As for the game outside of Sam Darnold, who had 4 touchdowns, by the way, no interceptions, and played great, got rolled up on, injured his knee a little bit. MRI comes back clean, so the Vikings expect him to play Sunday at Green Bay. Outside of that, BMac, you had some other really good performances. Justin Jefferson had 6 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown in the first half alone. Aaron Jones went over 100 yards rushing on the day. So that was, a really good outing.
That means the O-line was opening up holes.
They were. And I actually was going to come at you with an offensive line question. Looking at the Houston Texans, they had 14 rushing attempts on the afternoon. 12 of those were in the first half. So that means Houston only ran the ball 2 times in the second half. Talk about that a little bit, Bryant. Like, you must look at that as an offensive lineman and be like, oh, that's not good.
That's not good too, but they were behind. So I know a lot of teams, when they're behind, they tend to try to throw the ball in the air to get down the field faster. Yep. But as offensive lineman, no, only have 2 attempts to run the ball. That's not pretty good, especially when I'm the type of person who likes to wear down my opponent in the run. and then go against, take them on in the pass. So,
Yep.
yeah, the only run the ball twice is basically saying you're not running the ball well.
Yeah. I've noticed, and actually Chris Collinsworth made this comment on the broadcast, but it's something I've noticed too on the Falcons Chiefs broadcast. He said Andy Reid has a habit or is known for when it's just not a good day on offense, even if they're losing by a couple of possessions, to sort of recalibrate it, refocus it, and get on track. He'll call 4 or 5 runs out of 6 or 7 plays because it's sort of like hitting the reset button for your offense. And I felt like Houston got away from that, where it's like, even though you're down 21-7, give those guys up front a chance to reset, establish some rhythm, move the chains once or twice, and then get back into your pass game. Do you think there's any validity to that?
It may be a little bit. I just felt like they were behind. I know the mindset normally from me playing on offensive teams is when you're behind like that, you have a high chance of getting the ball down the field fast by throwing it.
Yeah.
And you're basically trying to play catch up. Because keep running the ball, you're going to run a lot of time off the clock, and you need to give yourself some time.
Yeah. Yeah, the tricky part there becomes if you're a one-dimensional offense, you're down by 2 touchdowns. The other, the defense knows you're throwing it. That can be hard on your pass protection because you got DNs just pinning their ears back and coming after you. So you got to try to find a way to neutralize it. But that was Houston's problem on Sunday, not the Vikings. The Vikings, really a good, like all-around complete team victory for the Vikings. The defense is just on fire, man, and it would be awesome to like sit down with you and watch the Vikings defense so you could point out some intricacies that are happening that, the common man might not see. But the one thing I notice is like everyone is in on the mix on the Vikings defense. It's not like one guy just dominating and leading the way, It's like, it kind of reminds me of the 2009 Vikings defense that we had. You had Jared, you had the Williams wall, you had Antoine, you had EJ Henderson in the middle. You had Greenway. Like there's just a bunch of guys always making plays, and that's this Vikings defense. And I almost, as awesome as it is to have like that dominant presence, it's better to have maybe less of a singular guy who's amazing and a bunch of guys who are right here. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. Because that means everybody can take turn and make a plays. And I feel like they're motivating each other. Like, okay, he made a play. Like, it's my turn. Let me go out here and try to, get my shine on. So I feel like that's kind of the rotation they have going on.
Yeah. When, those team meetings that you would have on Monday mornings, when you're like getting to you're 2-0 and now you're 3-0 and people are believing and
the meetings are more fun.
Are they? Okay. I want to know about that.
No, they are. It's more little chatter, a little more fun. Like, a little more lighthearted because when you come there after their loss, nobody wants to talk. Nobody wants to everybody's like, oh, everybody's saying about the mistakes they made. So it's like, it's not as fun. It's just, you get through it though, but it's just like, not as much conversation, but it's probably a lot more conversation, a lot more lighthearted in that locker room.
Have you ever been in a situation where like a Monday morning team meeting, or maybe you got a Monday off, so it was the first time you met as a team was a Wednesday morning, let's say, and the coach felt like, I got to pull these guys back a little bit. They're getting too high on themselves, or the media's too high on them. I got to level this off. Or is that sort of like, no, don't do that. Keep the momentum going. Keep everyone's energy up.
I would say maybe Coach Tyson may have done that before, like to kind of like keep everybody a little humble, like when he had got to a fast start.
Yeah, it's
just keep everybody level headed a little bit. But
it's tricky though, man, because like these wins are hard to come by. You want people playing confidently, so you don't want to knock them down, but you also want people to be focused, right?
Yeah, you just don't want people to get too far ahead of themselves, so you want to really take it one game at a time.
Yeah.
And that's what I kind of tell a lot of people, like, okay, we got through that one game, let's move on to the next, like, one game at a time.
Yeah. When would you let yourself sort of, after a game, you have a victory, when did you sort of like, okay, flip the switch?
They always told us we have 48 hours to celebrate.
Okay.
And then after that, it's on to the next week.
Yeah.
So they're still celebrating.
Good
They
for
coming
them.
out.
That's well earned, man. Especially the guys, who are healthy and feeling good. Like you still got like a part of your roster there's a chance that they still are like healthy and feeling good, right? The injury rate's
Yes.
100%. Everybody's getting hurt eventually, but right now you might still be healthy and good. So those are the guys who are really riding high right now. How about like when you would get like corrections on your performance? When did that happen? Was that a Monday after the game? Was that a Wednesday meeting?
That's a Monday, because Mondays is when, if you have meetings on Mondays, that's when you go on and you watch the film. So you have a team meeting, and then you break off into position meetings, and you're graded. So you can see all the plays 1 through 70 or 67 plays, and you'll see like the plus and the minus. You'll see. So everybody would scroll down and see where they see their minuses at and get ready for that play. Like, oh gosh, here we go. So
Okay.
you can see your grades. So
So you all are in the room,
mhm.
and every play is graded plus or minus, and that's it. And then your position coach or coordinator, whoever's in there, position coach probably, goes through the play, and you watch the end zone copy, the sideline copy.
Yup, ends on the sideline, and every player is numbered, and so you have a sheet and it has your grade, plus or minus, and then there's a total score at the end. But you just sit there and in your mind you played the game, so you kind of know what area you made a mistake, if you made any, and just get ready for the correction. And a lot of times you made a mistake when you made it, so it's like you kind of know what the correction is.
Yeah, and then it can't be as simple as just like watch this play and that was a bad block, we gave up a pressure minus. There's got to be like, well, we were slide protecting on the left here,
I
so
would say it goes into technique sometimes too. So your technique could get corrected, or if it's a missed assignment. So MA, that's something that'll go on you. So it's plus minus an MA. MA is just like you missed assignment, so that means you made a mistake. Like that's just not knowing your plays. I think that's worse than a minus in their grading system. So you'll see that on your page too.
Yeah.
But you'd rather just, I don't know. I didn't have too many MAs, so I kind of knew
I'm sure you
my
did.
plays.
I'm sure you didn't. You didn't have many minuses either. I'm sure. Now there's some good players in the league now. Everyone's getting paid, but
Yeah.
I'm sure you didn't have many minuses. Would you ever, when you were talking like technique and play call, was there ever an atmosphere there where you could be like, hey, on this, I know we do this, but maybe like, could we think about maybe doing this technique or this strategy instead on this play call?
To be honest, Coach Tice one year came and sat down with me, I want to say like 05, and just me and him watched film, and he told me totally different techniques to do compared to without being coached, and said, if anybody say anything to you, you tell them I told you to do it.
God.
So I was like, all right, because you are the head coach. And he was making my job easier, no lie. Like he was like, the goal is to get it blocked. It's not about looking pretty. So he was giving me different techniques, and I feel like I played really well that season too. He sat down and was giving me different techniques on how to get things blocked, and it was a time where I was like, well, they were like, well, we didn't teach this. Like somebody else taught me this. Is like Coach Tice, but yeah, he's definitely came in the room before, and we sat down and he was like, yeah, just do this instead, this and other, and and then it's like to me, and then it worked. So like now when he leaves, like I wanted to keep it, but then it's like the new coaches who came in is trying to like teach me their way, but it was like my way was working already, and I really wanted to keep it, but now you got to try to learn how they want you to block. So to them, it's about, I felt like, I guess a look with Coach Tyson wasn't about like looking pretty blocking. It's like it's just getting the block, Yeah.
It's interesting. Like I'm putting myself in the shoes of like, you remember offensive line coach Pat Morris for the Vikings, right? Like, or Jim Hubert, you think about those guys and it's like, they came to Minnesota with Brad Childress on his staff. They inherit someone like you or Hutch. You and Hutch were both already there. Actually, Hutch's first year 6. Hutch might have came with. Anyway, regardless, they're inheriting good players who are established, good veteran players, but they have to coach. So like there's a little bit of a balance there, right? Where it's like I kind of just got to let BMac just be BMac and let him do his thing. But I got to coach him
I
too.
wish that
Right?
would happen
Yeah.
in some circumstances for me. But I feel like people wanted to take credit for the thing that you could do already. So they wanted to implement their ways in doing it. And you now have to relearn somebody else's process of how they want things blocked. So now it's like I'm learning this
Yeah.
because of basically because your ego. Because
Yeah.
you could just correct what I'm doing if there was something like a little off what I was doing, just like help correct it and enhance it. But now you're making me like kind of change a lot. So it's like okay, and I do it just because I don't feel like hearing it in the meeting room. Like who's like sometimes I would do it how I would
Yeah.
do just to get it blocked, and then sometimes I would just do it their way because I would have to practice it because I didn't you're teaching me a different technique. So
Yeah. Well, so I like to play golf, but I'm not very good. Okay. So there's like, you know, it's like, yeah, when you're on the driving range, do this with your grip, adjust this a little bit. And it's like, okay, great. I'll try that, because on the driving range, you can shank them or chunk them and it's fine. It doesn't count. You're practicing, you're working on it. Then you play a round of golf and you might be in a game with your friends or you might, you're trying to score well, and you're working with this new technique and it's like, it doesn't feel comfortable. It doesn't feel
so
right.
you go back to what you know.
Yep.
That's
Is it
comfortable.
like the same thing?
It is. It is until you get used to what it is they're trying to teach you. So sometimes you do have to go back to what you know until you get comfortable doing it in practice and things like that to do what it is they ask of you.
Yeah, because it's like you're trying this new technique and Favre's getting killed back there and
Right.
Brett's like, dude, I don't care what you got to do, but
Just get it blocked.
just to get a block.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's good. All right, speaking of Favre, his former team before he came to us was the Green Bay Packers, and that's who the Vikings play on Sunday, BMac. So you've been through a Packer week or two as a member of the Minnesota Vikings. I know it's not like college and rivalry week, but some teams you just got that rivalry with, and it just feels different in the building. For the Vikings, the Packers are one of those opponents. Did you feel that way when you were playing in Minnesota?
Oh, absolutely. That was the main team. Like that, everybody says we don't care. I mean, they'll say they don't care about any other losses, but they were like, as long as you beat them twice, they're satisfied. That is a game where, to be honest, it doesn't matter what teams' records are. It's going to be a very physical game, and yeah, like I said, it doesn't matter who's having a winning season that year or not. It's going to be physical, and it's going to be a good game.
Mm-hmm. What do you think plays into that? We just like, is it the familiarity that you might have with another player that you've gone up against 3 or 4 years in a row? It's like coaches can change, schemes can change. They're good one year, we're good the next year, we're both good some years. But at the end of the day, I'm seeing, Aaron Campman or Julius Peppers, and I know what they're about, regardless of who's coaching them. Is that sort of what plays into that? The games always seem to get physical and close.
Because that opponent becomes like your low key rival because y'all face each other twice a year,
Yeah.
So it's like you're the most familiar with them or people in that conference because you play them twice a year for every year you're there. So they become the most familiar player.
What are some Packer game memories that stand out to you? I've got a few ideas, but I don't want to lead you down a certain path. I want you to
So
say what stands out to you.
the one when that time, like a lot of people don't know, is like they used to moon us when we would come to the stadium. So when Randy Moss imitated it being mooned, it was like, oh, it's so offensive. It's not like he really did it. They do it to us. Like they really legit do it to us as we pull up to the stadium. So to me, I thought it was funny. And I think we all wore our hair. I was like, let it all hang out. I think it was a playoff game. And we all wore our hair out. And that all stemmed from me. I used to get my hair braided on sometimes Friday nights or sometimes Saturday mornings. And I came into the locker room Friday with like my braids out, my hair was out. And Randy was like, oh, we should everybody should take their braids out and wear hair like that. And I was like, for real? And everybody who had braids took their hair out and we wore these big afros, which is like you had to make sure that your helmet could still fit, but it did.
I remember that. There's a great picture of Moss on the sidelines.
Yeah,
with the huge afro and I think it was cold that night. I think there was.
It was
yeah,
cold.
you could see your breath.
So that stands out the most. We played them so many different times.
Oh.
And then winning both times with Brett Favre too stands out because now he got a chance to beat every team in the NFL.
Yeah.
So I remember that.
In 09, we played there at Lambeau, Favre's first game back at Lambeau as a member of the Vikings. 2009, it was like a 3:30 game. So the sun was out when we started, but when the game was like in the fourth quarter, it felt like a night game. Yeah. Percy had that crazy touchdown on a deep crosser where he left his feet and caught a pass, and 3 Packers ran into each other. Remember that? Yeah. Those were some really that was a really smooth game for you guys on offense with Favre and Green Bay. What do you remember about that game? Anything?
I just remember just how bad Brett wanted to beat them. He wanted to go back there and beat them, and I just knew everybody raised their level of play up, and that was like the focus to go out here and make sure we made sure he looked good.
Yeah.
Back home in Green Bay as a Viking.
How could you tell? I mean, it's not surprising that he wanted to go back there and win. Obviously, anyone with a brain would know that. But how could you tell? I always felt like he was the same every day, no matter what. But you saw him more often than I did, and you were in rooms with him, meeting rooms and practices. How could you tell that he wanted it really bad that week? Was there anything that gave it away?
He said it.
He said it. Okay.
Yeah. So in conversation, it was made clear, to us that the game meant a lot to him. We knew it too, though. Like, you're now playing against a rival, and you want to show, like, you know what I mean? You want to outplay Aaron Rodgers for one, and you want to come away with a win.
Yep. That Lambeau Field playing there, I have to think for you it felt different than just like I don't want to rip any other stadiums, but like, Carolina, Tennessee, outdoor venues on the grass, but like when you're in Lambeau, don't you think there's a different aura?
Lambeau, because Lambeau always seems like it's like the main place to play for like an outdoor game in the NFL. Like Lambeau Field, for some reason, has like this, I don't know, like this just powerful name when it comes to football.
Yeah.
So, playing there is like, I think I took a moment where I had like I can't believe I'm here moment. Like, it was like one night, you go to commercial and like, you're sitting down on the field and I'm just like looking around in the crowd like, wow, I can't believe I'm in the NFL. So I had one of those moments there on Lambeau Field just because I grew up watching. I was a big Reggie White fan and he used to play there. So I used to watch it on TV and it's like, now I'm here on the field.
That's really cool, man. Did you have that? Did you have a moment like that when you were in the Super Bowl?
Oh, yeah. Somebody told me to look around when the first kick goes off, when they do the first kickoff, and you see like a million flashes all at one time. I was looking around like, this is crazy. Like, I can't believe I'm finally like in the Super Bowl, and this is like what you kind of dream to do. Like, everybody wants to win the Super Bowl.
Yep. Yeah. So, it felt that way.
At the beginning and the end, I felt like that. Because then when the confetti came down, I was like,
that's just got to be a surreal feeling.
Yeah.
Man. I can't even imagine. The Lambeau thing to me, I grew up in Minnesota. So when I was a kid watching games, I saw, all the games the Vikings played in the different buildings. And I heard the announcers talk about Lambeau Field. So then, you go to college and graduate, get a job. And my first job was with the Vikings in 2005. And I didn't travel the first couple of years, but then in 2007, I started traveling with you guys with the Vikings. And, you go into these places and all of them are cool. For a young kid in his middle 20s, you're going into these NFL stadiums. It's all really cool. But I agree with you that Lambeau has that mystique to it more than maybe some others.
And then the location's like right in the middle of a neighborhood.
It's crazy. I mean, and so that kind of gives it a little like Friday Night Lights feel.
Yeah.
But, the grass is so well maintained. The field is smooth. Chicago, cool historical building, but like the grass was always long there, and it just was hard to play there, hard to win there. Green Bay, it's not that like there's this huge home field advantage for the Packers. It's not that. It's just the Packers have always been good, so it's hard to win on the road against a good team. The building was fun to play in. Other buildings, it was like hard to play in, but Lambeau was like just fun. Like you look forward to going to that building, and that's where the Vikings will be on Sunday. BMac, they play the Green Bay Packers. Now, Jordan Love injured his knee in week 1 against the Philadelphia Eagles, did not play week 2, did not play week 3. He's going to practice this week. Most likely will have a brace on his leg. You know, he's got a sprained MCL. Did you ever have a sprained knee or sprained MCL of any kind? And if so, what was it like coming back and playing on that?
I had a torn meniscus, but not an MCL. But I'm pretty sure the knee probably just feels like a little tight or something like that.
Yeah.
So they'll do stuff to like keep their eye on it, to keep it like from inflaming and things like that, to see if he's able to be mobile enough to be on the field.
Yeah, I mean, a big thing is like he can stand in the pocket and deliver passes with a sprained MCL, but you got to move around. You got to take a hit, right? You got to buy time.
Mm-hmm.
That's different than just standing there throwing passes, I would have to think.
It is. And then like your weight distribution is going to be a little different because you're going to baby it a little bit more too. So you have to be kind of mindful.
Yeah. For an offense, like so Green Bay's backup is Malik Willis, who the Packers got from the Tennessee Titans right before the season started. Malik Willis can throw from the pocket. He's got a great arm, but he's got mobility. He's got a little more like eagerness to run than Jordan Love does. Love has athletic ability as well, but Love wants to stay in the pocket and deliver passes. Willis will leave it. You can even do some design runs with Malik Willis. So as an offense, when there is ambiguity about who will play, the opponent doesn't know if it's Malik Willis or if it's Jordan Love. I would compare it to like, you don't know if it's going to be Tavares Jackson playing or, Gus Frerotte playing, let's say. Mm-hmm. Is there any, obviously the better player is Love, so you'd want him to play. But is there any kind of advantage to be gained by the defense not knowing which quarterback's going to play? Or do you think that's overblown?
No, I mean, they just got to prepare for both, and then just know whatever one plays, know how they play. So one you have to make sure you keep contained of, and the other one just make sure you just collapse the pocket for him because since he's trying to stay in there.
Yeah, yeah.
And they'll be reminded of that once they figure out who's the starting QB.
Yeah, yeah. And you're right. They probably will have, a big chunk of their game plan is going to be the same, right? Because like this is the Packers offense. No matter who's running it, this is their offense. So the defense's game plan will largely be the same, 75% the same. But then there's 25% that'll change based on whether it's Malik Willis or it's Jordan Love, is what I would have to imagine. Here's another question for you, a schematic question. The Vikings faced a 3-4 defense in week 1 playing the New York Giants. And now for the third week in a row, they're going to play a 4-3, an even man front with the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers had been an odd man front in previous seasons, but they have a new defensive coordinator this year. So now it's an even man front of 4-3. Can you tell me a little bit from an offensive lineman standpoint, going against an odd man front and an even man front, and some of the things that you think about and you have to contend with in both of them?
To me, I think that's more of the quarterback, because with me, I'm going to say 85% of the time I'm blocking the defensive end.
Yeah.
So that's more of the quarterback who sees the whole picture, because I only see like half. I see the defensive end, the linebacker, and the 3 technique. And that's my only real vision. And if anybody comes across the edge.
So in your mind, an outside linebacker, an edge rusher in a 3-4, you categorize that player as a defensive end, would you say? Mm-hmm. Like in your mind's eye?
Yeah, in my mind, yes.
Yeah. Okay. How about the interior guys? There's got to be some rules changes for them based on their, the center is covered up versus
the center and the quarterback are the two who can see everything.
Yeah.
So the center is the one who, if you pay attention, the center is the one who really kind of calls out a lot of things for the quarterback and identifies everybody for the offensive line as well. And then we go from there. So the center sees everything first and then the quarterback.
Interesting. And then we've talked about how they can, teams can alternate who's on what edge and whatnot. But how about when there's a pretty good pass rusher who's a tackle, like in a 3-4 defense. Let's say he's the 5 technique, but he's a good pass rusher. You kind of got to know him as well, right? Because there may be some stunts or games where the edge rusher is not who ends up coming at you. You're facing a 5 technique, so you're studying that player too, I would think.
Oh yeah. Because I mean they're lined up right on you anyway, so there's a chance that the person outside could drop and you're now taking on that person. So yeah, you definitely got to study everybody as if they're your opponent.
Yeah. Any thoughts or feelings on what to expect, Vikings and Packers? Like, I would think it's going to be a close game. It's 3-0 against 2-1. The game's at Lambeau. The Packers are actually favored. I expect Love to play and Darnold to play, so I think both teams are pretty much full strength. What do you think?
I think that it'll be a really good game, actually. Yeah, I think this is going to be a close game, just because it's a 2-1 team and 3-0 team. They're rivals. It's like the battle of the border, like you know what I mean. So it's always going to be intense. Like and right now, whoever wins goes up like +2 or something like that in the conference. So it's definitely a must win for both teams.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. What do you like to do on Sundays? If you don't have stuff going and you can actually chill on a Sunday, do you like to sit in front of a TV, watch a bunch of games? Do you like to catch up later on? What's your deal on Sundays?
I sit at home. I normally sit at home and watch the first games that come on at 1:00.
Yeah.
And then if I want to go catch like the 4:05 game or whatever, I'll go out then and catch like that at the sports bar or something.
Yeah.
And then the 8:00 game, by the time the 8:00 game come on, I don't know if I'm paying attention anymore. It depends.
Yeah. Have you ever wanted to get into like, you see some of the former players who are the color commentators on TV. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever wanted to do it or not interested?
I was actually doing it here on our local CBS here called Sports Desk. So I would do the wrap-up show with 3 other guys, and we would go over the Miami Hurricanes and basically the Miami Dolphins and stuff like that. So I was doing that right before COVID, and then COVID hit. And then I wasn't a full-time employee, so they cut me out because I wasn't full-time and COVID was there, so it was limited to people coming in and out of the building.
For sure. Okay, cool. And I know your Saturdays, you're paying attention to your Miami Hurricanes.
Absolutely, and they're playing really well right now. And I'm still taking one game at a time with them too. Everybody's like, "Are we back?" Listen,
so let's
keep one game at a time.
Now we got to talk. I can't let you go without talking about it. They play on I think they play Friday this
Friday,
week.
Yeah.
Okay, so they play Vatech. The game is Friday. I think it's in Miami. They're 7th in the country. They're 4-0, and this quarterback is pretty dang good. It looks like
he is. They're putting up 45 points or better each game so far. So it's a high scoring offense, and the defense is doing pretty good as well. The defense is keeping people from not getting in the end zone. They're just having to settle for field goals. They had 4 field goals or 5 field goals last week. So the defense is playing. They're playing pretty good too.
Good stuff, man. Do you ever go to those Hurricane games when they're home?
Yeah, I went to the first home game, and actually I went to the first. Yeah, I went to the first home game.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, enjoy the season. Both, your first former pro team is undefeated, and your college team is undefeated, man. That doesn't happen a lot, so enjoy that.
I know. So we're on a roll right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Hopefully they can all keep it up. All right, let's get out of here, man. That's a wrap on Vikings Texans and a preview of the Vikings and Packers. Super excited to watch this game on Sunday. BMac and I will be back together on Monday. We'll break down what happens at Lambeau Field in that Vikings Packers game, and then next week, BMac, the Vikings go to London. They play Rodgers, the Jets in London.
Okay.
A week from Sunday. Yeah. So
they need to have trips like that. They need to have sponsored trips where. They put together something where Viking fans can go, and you have a couple former players go as hosts. Because I feel like other teams do that, but I was like, I don't know why Minnesota hasn't really done that yet. Because I see other teams. I was contacted to do it for, I think the Miami Hurricanes before somebody. So it's it happens on the college level and it also happens in the pro level. So whenever you're taking trips to London, stuff like that, I'm pretty sure give people enough time in advance to know hey, we have this package for you to take this trip to London and give them a little tour and things to feel involved. People would sign up and do it.
Oh yeah, they totally would.
Right.
And it'd be kind of fun. It's a little like a Viking invasion of
Right.
London.
And even like maybe
yeah.
attend a Friday and Saturday practice. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing that's
Mhm.
too serious. But yeah.
All right. Well, closed circuit to Minnesota Vikings alumni relations department, Tom West,
Oh,
Bob
right.
Hagan, and the marketing. You know what? Bob and Tom they probably already thought of that. They're on it. We got to get other people on board, I think,
Yeah.
at the organization to do that. I'm sure the Vikings have some great things cooking from a marketing and fan standpoint in London, but that's a really good idea. And if people were to be on the fence on going to watch their team in London, knowing that there might be some Vikings legends going with them, might put them over the fence.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. All right, man. Well, again, belated happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Another trip around the sun for us both now, because we both had birthdays in the past 2 weeks. So hopefully more good things to come for us for the rest of the year, and good things to come for the Vikings for the rest of the season. They're off to a perfect start. Fun talking about it with Bryant McKinnie and all of you guys. We'll be back next Monday with another BMac Monday, breaking down the Vikings and Packers game and looking ahead to the Vikings and the Jets game in London. On behalf of Bryant McKinnie, this is Wobby signing off for now. Until next time, everybody, keep believing.